Hello and welcome to our Authentique Fun Folds birthday card class. I'm really excited to bring these cards to you folks, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun creating. These cards are going to have huge wow factor with the people that you give them to. However, they're actually not that difficult to make. I will go through some of the measurements as well as we go along, so if you want to jot notes down, that will help you recreate these cards down the road. Got my handy dandy little instruction sheet with all of my notes on it, and we are ready to get started. So in your kit, you should have received a sheet of 3x4 cut-aparts, which I have gone ahead and cut apart already. And what I did is I just sorted them into vertical and horizontal cards. I've pulled all my pieces out of the Ziploc bag, and if you take off that little cover sheet, you will notice that each little packet is numbered, and that's the order of the cards that we're going to be making as we go along. You do need your basic glue or tape runner, whichever you prefer to use. I've got a couple handy because I always seem to run out. I've got my super thin 3mm score tape. If yours is a little bit wider, no worries. I'll explain to you why the thin works better when we get to those points, but whatever you've got is handy. And then I've got my foam tape, which you should have received some in your kit, and this little bottle of Nuvo crystal drops, which we're going to use at the very end just to add some sparkle and some embellishment after we're done. All right, so just to go through the different cards that we're going to be making today, we have 5 cards, and we are using the Authentique Hooray paper line. The Authentique is really well known for their fun and vibrant vintage style papers and designs. When I say they're vibrant, they're brighter colors. They're not super dark like some other vintage lines can be. And what I really like about Authentique too is how nice and thick the paper is. So we're going to get a lot of good, beautiful cards out of this that are going to last and be on display hopefully for days and weeks at a time. So the first card that we're going to make today is called an easel card. And what that does is it actually, when you open up the card, it stands just like an easel. And it's difficult to show on camera this way, but it just does pop up, and the front part just tucks behind that bottom part so that it stands and can make a display. I've also seen it where people have put a post-it note here, so that way you can have it on display all the time. And there's still room to write a message, and it's super fun. So that's number 1. Number 2 is this one here where we're doing a diagonal pocket. So this card will flip up, and we're going to create a pocket here with the leftover pieces that you can put another journaling card, or you can put a gift card, or concert tickets, or any little thing that you want to include. It's a great little pocket for that. Now, one thing I'll say before I get on to the next couple of cards is I've used certain pocket cards on these cards. If you feel like you want to switch them up and use different ones, so maybe you want something that's not so masculine, you want a chick instead of a dude, feel free to use whichever cards you want to use, because we do have a few extra. And if we need to tweak it to make it go the different direction, that's always possible as well. Anyway, so that was card number 1. Card number 2. Card number 3 is this cute little guy here. It is a full pocket, and then you pull out the card from inside and it opens up as well. So it's got a lot of little pieces, but it makes a really nice complete package. Again, if you were giving a gift card or something of that nature, this is a great little packet to give, because it all kind of comes together and coordinates and keeps everything contained. Card number 4 is what we call a bridge card. And it's kind of fun because when you receive it, or when you give it, it folds nice and flat and fits really easily in a standard envelope. But when the person receives it, they can pop it so that it stands up almost like a shadow box. So it really frames that messaging nicely, and has that added wow factor of something a little bit different than what a traditional card looks like. And then last but not least, we have a card this is called a joy fold. And I'm really not sure why it's called a joy fold, but it's almost like two cards in one that interlock together. So this opens up and then this opens up again. I have done it in the past too, where I've added a little pocket on here because a gift card will tuck nicely in that area, but it's just kind of fun to be able to open and have a little bit of interactivity with that. So without further ado, we are going to get started. If you have extra pop dots and things lying around, you are more than welcome to use them as we go along. As with anything, I will tell you when the paper, you can flip it over and use the other side. And the whole idea is just to have fun with these and feel free to make your own little twist on things if you're feeling particularly creative, which is always my goal. All right, so we're going to start with card number 1, which is our easel card. So I'm just going to stand them up here. So we have that as reference. You're going to grab packet number 1. The rest of your packets can just get tucked off to the side. And we're going to remove that Post-it note because we don't need it anymore. What you have in packet number 1 is you've got your card base, and if you notice that it does have a score line partway through on one side of it. This is a standard A2 card size when it's folded, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I did it with a top fold as opposed to the side fold. And so if you are scoring this, your piece is 4 1/4 by 11. And then we scored it at 2 3/4. And we scored it at 5 1/2. So 2 3/4, 5 1/2. Essentially, you're scoring it in half and then scoring it in half again, just on that one side. So you have your card base handy. You will have a large blue rectangle. You will have a small blue rectangle, and you will have 3 of these little striped pieces. 2 of them are a little bit more narrow than the other one. You do have one slightly larger. The large one and one narrow one is for the front. The other narrow one is for the inside. So let's just tuck those aside for right now. We're going to work on the front first. The other thing you want to grab is 2 of your pocket cards. These ones I've got are horizontal, and we do need to trim them down just a little bit. So I'm going to choose birthdays. Birthday calories don't count. And the happy birthday cake that is providing all said calories. So the very first thing we should probably do is trim these cards down. They right now measure 3 inches by 4 inches. We want to trim them down to, I'm just double checking my reference here, 3 inches by 3 3/4. So we're just trimming a little bit off the edge here. If you compare it to my sample one, yeah, it's just coming off the one end. Same with this guy here. We need to trim him down to 3 this way by 3 3/4. And it looks like you can take that 1/4 of an inch just off this edge and get it right close to his head. So I'm just going to grab my paper trimmer and we will take care of that right away. And that's what's really nice about this thick Authentique paper, is that you can trim just little bits and the paper maintains its integrity. I'm just going to put that in my little trash can there. So that guy's ready to go. He's going to go on the inside. So I'm going to put it with those inside pieces that I have off to the side. And I'm going to trim down my happy birthday right close to that cake plate. And I noticed that I do have a little bit of the card that was beside it. So I'm just going to trim that little teeny sliver off the top. There you have it. Tuck my paper trimmer away for right now. All right, so on the front, we have our large blue rectangle. We have our narrow striped strip that goes at the top. And we have our wider strip that goes at the bottom. And then our birthday cake girl just nests right in between. When I'm doing 3 3 strips of something, I always like to do the outside pieces first, because then that way you can kind of fudge the middle and give the impression that it's perfectly centered even when it may not be. I will also say that on these striped pieces, we have the words happy birthday on the back. So if you would rather flip one or both over for that, you are more than welcome to do so. So now all we're going to do is tape it down to our blue base. Just like so. So I am leaving a little bit of a border around the outside. Let's take her out of the way. We'll do the top one. So, and then my happy birthday in the middle. And give it a good rub down so everything sticks. There you have it. That is the front of our card. So let's just tuck it over here on top of our card base for right now. And let's get these pieces prepped. So our dude is just going to go right on top of that blue smaller rectangle. Like so. This piece here on my sample, I have dovetailed the ends. You don't have to if you don't want to. You don't even need to use this piece if you don't want to. But, or as I mentioned previously, if you want to put the happy birthday side up, you are more than welcome to do so. I'm going to stick with the stripes because I feel it ties in the stripes from the front to the back. So I'm just going to grab my scissors, little snip up the middle, and then from the outside corner up, and from the outside corner up. It's an easy way to get it pretty centered. So again, a little snip, and then outside up, and my dovetail is done. Tidy up my little bits. All right. So now all our pieces are prepped. All we have to do is assemble. I find it easiest to do the inside first. So with the card base facing you with that score line on top, you're going to open it up. And this guy here is just going to nest right at the bottom here. There will be a little bit of a white border, which is exactly how I've designed it. But the key to this is using your foam squares in order to pop these up, because that's going to be what that top piece is going to grab in order to keep it holding and standing up straight. Now I've just used one set of the foam squares. If you have thin foam squares, or if you feel like you really want a lot of height and dimension, you could always double these up and make them a little bit taller. That is up to you. Oh, my finger's sticking. There we go. All right, so I'm going to peel and peel. Bring my little trash can over here. Always fun to have dimension and things sticking in here. Now make sure your dude's facing the right way. And again, we're just gonna center it. Not quite, not quite. Gonna move him over a little bit. Center him inside. Oh, I still don't have him low enough. There we go. So as you can see, a small white border on the outside. He's popped up and ready to go. I'm going to attach my dovetail piece inside. Now you could always put it down here as well, but I'm just going to tuck it up here. Bring it a little bit more that way. There you go. That ties in the front to the inside. Now we've got our front. So the key to this, as with many interactive cards, the key is where you put the glue and where you don't put the glue. So with this card, we do not want any glue or adhesive whatsoever on this top portion. because otherwise our card is not going to pop up and stand. You want to make sure this area stays nice and clear. So go ahead and fold on that score line because it definitely helps to have that prepped and ready before we put the paper on. And if we lie it out flat, our lovely lady here is going to go right here. So if you kind of eyeball it, and literally, that score line kind of runs right where her eyeballs are. So on that bottom half, and make sure you get it in the right direction. So I'm going to flip it this way, and just on this bottom portion of the card, I'm going to apply my adhesive. I don't have anything up the top here. And then I'm going to center it with a small border on the bottom here and stick it down. So when I pop it up, magic. And then that just stands like so. So there you have it. There is our first card of the day, making that easel pop-up birthday card. All right. Everybody good? Let's move on to card number 2. So card number 2, if I find my samples, my card number 2 is our diagonal pocket. And this is where you are going to need your thin little score tape, because when we make our pocket, we're going to tape just around the outside so we've got lots and lots of space in there to put goodies. But just like with the first card, let's prep all of our pieces first and get them ready to go. So grab your packet number 2, take off your Post-it. In packet number 2, you do have that same A2 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 folded card base with the fold at the top. So the paper was 4 1/4 by 11, and we just scored down the middle at 5 1/2. You should also have a large piece of happy birthday paper, which is striped on the other side. So if you'd rather use the striped side, you can. We have a red photo mat, and we have this little blue guy here. And this is where you want to grab one of your vertical pocket cards. This one we don't have to trim down. We want to keep it at the 3 by 4 inch size. So just grab one and let's put it in the pile. For convenience, I'm just going to keep doing the same. So to start with, let's take these 3 pieces here and we'll just tuck them off to the side. We're going to focus on these 2 pieces here. Now, like I said, you are welcome to flip over to the striped side on this piece, but now is the time that you need to decide, because we are going to do a little bit of cutting. Your card base, I want you to fold open as well. Grab your paper trimmer. And what we're going to do is we are going to cut from the bottom left corner diagonally up to the corner where the fold hits the right-hand side of your card base. So this part up here, not going to get touched. We're just going to focus on this section here. So from bottom left to top right. And how I do that is I just use the track. Some paper trimmers have the wire that will help you line this up. But I just take my top corner where I want it the cut to end and line it up with the track, and then I carefully rotate it so that the bottom corner of my card where I want to start the cut is also lined up with the track. And just make sure everything's good and slice, and there you have it. So you should have your card base that looks like this with this little triangle piece cut off. That you can tuck to the side just for a second, because we're going to do the same thing to this piece. We're going to cut from the bottom left to the top right. And that's why it matters for you to have the correct side up as you choose, so that, because if you were to cut it and then try to flip it over, the triangles will be backwards. So I'm going to stick with the happy birthday side, slide it in. My top right corner is on the track. My bottom left corner is on the track. and slide it up. So now I have 2 triangles that will go with my card. Paper trimmer can get tucked aside. Just gonna grab a little sip of water. And what we're going to do next is we are literally just going to attach our triangles to our triangles, like so. Doing it this way makes it a lot easier when we go to put the pocket on the inside, because you know which side is going to be up and which side is not. So just a little bit of tape runner. Stay on the camera. Oops. And again, just a slight white border around all the sides. And the reason why I did that is because if you were to cut these, any of these papers to fit edge to edge, you would only get 4 pieces out of a 12 by 12. But if you come in just that 1/4 inch, so that rectangle was 4 by 5 1/4, that way you can now get 6 rectangles out of a 12 by 12, and it helps your paper go that little bit further. I also like that white border almost gives it a nice finish to it. So just my thoughts on prepping your paper. So let's glue this triangle down. This one's going to the one that's attached to the card base. And there you have it. So your card is ready and your pocket is ready to attach. So this is where having the pattern paper on will know you're taping the right side. We're going to flip that open and we're going to flip this over. So this is where you want to get out your score tape, just because a pocket is going to get lots of wear and tear as people pull things in and out of it. We want to make sure that this pocket stays stuck. So I've just got my thin score tape. Again, if you've got even a little bit wider, that's okay. The real trick is keeping it as close to that outside edge as you can, so that you allow for the biggest pocket possible. The other key to this is this long side here. Do not put any tape on it. You only want it on the outside because that's your pocket opening. If you tape it, you have no pocket. So I'm just going to take my score tape and put it as close to that outside edge as I can. And once again. There you go. So give it a little burnish so that it all sticks. Take your backings off. And outside edges are just going to align with the outside edges of your card. Like so. Give it a good rub down so it all sticks. This is going to line up beautifully, and even if it doesn't, most of it's going to get covered up, so any imperfections will absolutely be hidden by the decoration. So again, if you've done this right, you can tuck a pocket card or a gift card or anything else in there like so. As long as that long side is open, you are good. So all that's left now is the decorating. So you can go ahead and you can attach your pocket card to the red mat. There we go. This little blue piece here, much like we did with the little stripy piece on the first card, we're going to dovetail the ends. This is just to add a bit of color. When I originally designed the card, I kind of felt like it needed that punch of blue to jazz it up just a little bit. And what we're going to do with this is we are going to attach it to the back of that red piece, kind of maybe just a little bit over halfway. Because again, now that we're going to create this into one working unit, it's a lot easier to put on your card than trying to tuck that blue piece in afterwards. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to run a line of tape across the bottom. Please make sure it's the bottom. Yep, did it right this time. And face down, I'm going to attach that, and I just do it lightly so that you can flip it over. Yep, that positioning is perfect. If you needed to wiggle it, you could easily take it off at this point because we haven't rubbed it down, but I like where it is, so I'm going to put that here. And now this piece is only going to get attached to the flat piece. We do not want it attaching to the pocket because again, that will lock your card and you won't be able to get inside. So we want it to be, we want our tape or our adhesive to only be in that top left-hand corner. I'm going to flip it this way and remember that it's still on my left-hand side. So we'll just do some strips of tape like so. And there we go. It's always best to have less adhesive. You don't want it coming over this side, but then you can always go in and say, okay, you know what, I want to tuck a little bit more tape under here so I can go back in and add that afterwards. But then that way I don't have to worry about it showing where I don't want to. And that's not super great centered. Maybe I will pick it up and try again. I love this 3L adhesive because you can, especially when you're gentle, pick it up and move it until you're 100% happy with it. That's a little bit better. Now give it a rub. Tape's not showing, and we're good to go. So there's card number 2, folks. Moving right along. All right, we'll put this guy off to the side. Card number 3 is fun because it's our pocket card. Full on tag and pocket. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And pull out like so. Oops, I missed. So that's our sample. So grab your packet number 3. My 3's upside down, but that's okay. I know that it's number 3. And you've got a bunch of pieces in there because there are 2 parts to this card. So the first piece you're going to have is this piece of card base. And if you notice, it's got a horizontal score line across the middle, and then it's got 2 narrow score lines down the outside. This card, when it was cut, measures at, so it's 4 1/4 of an inch wide, 9 inches long. We scored it at the 4 1/2 mark here, so that's halfway down, and then 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch here. So we're gonna, that's for the outside, so tuck that off to your left. The next piece in your packet is this piece here with the bubbles or the diamonds. With this card, you can use either side, completely up to you. This piece measures, make sure I get the right card here. So this was 3 1/2 inches wide by 7 3/4, and we scored it at 3 1/2. So this top piece here is actually a 3 1/2 by 3 1/2 inch square. That is for the inside, so let's tuck that one off to the right. Then we've got a few extra pieces here. This piece here, again, bubbles and diamonds, are going to go on the outside of your pocket. The blue piece is also going to go on the outside of your pocket. Red stripe and narrow blue piece are going to go on the inside. And then we need 2 vertical pocket cards. So we've got Fabulous Gal and So I Could Eat Cake, or whichever vertical ones you want to use. So one's going to go, actually, I'm going to keep them both because we are going to trim those down before we get started, and then we can put them in their respective piles. So with these guys, put my cheat sheet back over again. Right now they are 3 inches by 4 inches. Again, we're going to trim them down to 3 inches by 3 3/4. And in this case, what I did is I trimmed it off the bottom because there wasn't a lot of room up here with the happy birthday. But on the flip side, with our cake lady over here, there is a lot more room at the top. So I've just taken my 1/4 inch off the top. So measure it down to 3 3/4. And that little bit is scrap. And the same on this side. So I Can Eat cake can go with your inside pieces. We can tuck that off to the side. The first thing we're going to do is create our pocket. And this is where, if you have a 1 inch or even 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 inch circle punch, this is where we're going to use it. All right, so if you refer back to this pocket piece, we've got our horizontal score line and we've got our 2 vertical score lines. We do need to trim away little bits from one side of this. So if you look at the score line, it goes like this and like this. You can see it on my paper. You don't have to draw the pencil lines. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. But if you feel like it'll help you remember where to cut, then please, by all means, go ahead. So this little section here, we're just going to use our scissors and cut it away. Same on this side here. We've got our long score line. We've got our little one here. This piece here, we're going to cut away. So just using your scissors, excuse me, and following the score lines or your pencil line if you've drawn that in, we're just going to snip away those little panels. And the other side. Snippity snip. I always find one side a little bit harder than the other, but just follow the lines and do the best you can. All right, so those are going to go away. I am just going to quickly, better eraser here, I'm just going to erase the pencil lines that got left behind because we don't want to see those. All right, so our snippety snips, our little trimming job has been done. The next thing we're going to do is grab our thin score tape again, and we're going to, on the tabs that have been left behind, that's where we're putting our tape. So again, we're just going to go bottom to top, just in that narrow little section on both sides. Give it a little burnish so it sticks. And then fold along those score lines. So now what we're going to do is we are going to remove those backings and fold that over to create our pocket. I personally find it easier to peel them both at once because it's harder to get in on that second one. But if you'd rather do one side than the other, that's completely up to you. So I'm just going to peel my backing. And then gently fold those pieces over to make our pocket. Give it a good crease so that it lays nice and flat. And then what we're going to do is take our circle punch, and by just feeding in the paper, and it does absolutely help to flip it over so that you can see the hole, we're only going to go halfway through that circle to create a little notch. Give it a squeeze. Whoop. Get rid of those little half circle pieces. And on this piece here, you're going to want to do the same thing. Now maybe, so you can decide what side you want facing up, whether you want the bubbles or the diamonds. On my sample, I've got the diamonds showing. Not a whole lot of it shows, so you can choose whichever side you prefer. I would put it there, so I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to trace approximately where that opening is going to be, and then line it up and punch it. That way I make sure I've got it in the right spot. A little pencil mark on my card base there. So now this can just get stuck down to your pocket. Line that opening up, line everything up, and away you go. And we're going to attach our fabulous gal onto our blue piece of cardstock. And that's going to attach onto your pocket as well. Now it's up to you. If you wish to then continue to cut that notch for this piece, you can. There's still enough that we can grab. Plus we're going to have a little tab on the tag. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to leave it as is. Just make sure you also don't put tape there though, because that could be a little sticky. So there you have it. The outside part of our pocket is now finished. Looking good. All right, now on to our second piece. So like I said, we've got our little card, and you can choose to have your pocket with the bubble side out or the diamond side out. It does not matter. I think I'm going to do diamond side out this time. Your red striped piece is going to go just nested over top. Now be careful when you're putting your tape on, because this bottom section here is longer than what the card base is. So you want to make sure you don't put any tape. I would say like the bottom 3 red stripes, make sure you stay above that. So I'm just going to go with this and attach it to my little pocket base, or my little card base. So there you have that one, it's ready to go. Next are these two guys. Because we want to be able to tuck this little faux ribbon in there, what we're going to do is take that blue piece, fold it in half, but not straight in half, almost, you want to be creating a V. And then you can just take your scissors and snip off the corners like so. Get all my little bits out of the way. What I like to do is put just a little teeny tiny bit of tape on that inside bit so that it stays closed and together. And then I'm going to glue that to the back of my pocket card. That way I know how tall I want it, and any other sticking that I do is not going to interfere with that. And much like that second card we did, this will allow us to then just attach this as a full unit. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape there and eyeball the way I want it. And then this whole piece can get attached to your red stripe piece. Voila. So that was my sample one. Oh, I thought I lost that blue piece. All right. Here is our final card. Your little card can just tuck right inside, and there you have it. You can pull that out and see the card. Super cute and super easy. That pocket really does make a nice little contained unit. I wouldn't even necessarily think you would need an envelope for that. You can treat that pocket as the envelope, and away you go. So that is card number 3. Can you believe it? We're over halfway done. Just 2 more to go. All right, so let's tuck them off to the side. Card number 4. This is a new format that I recently discovered. This is the bridge card that we're going to do. And again, like with many of these, once you understand the mechanism and how it all works, you can change up the side and make it as big or as small as you want. With this one, I'll explain when we get the pieces out. So this is our nice little almost shadow box one that stands up all on its own. All right, so packet number 4. In packet number 4, oh, you can take the paper clip off too. So packet number 4, you'll have a large piece of red that has been scored for you, and we'll talk about that in a second. You have a large piece of diamond paper, and you have 2 narrow pieces of diamond paper. As with the previous card, the flip side is that bubble polka dotted side, so feel free to use whatever side you wish, and you can even swap them up and do different patterns. That's completely up to you. We have our blue mat that's going to be for our pocket card, and then we have our key piece, this striped piece for our bridge mechanism. And then you do need 1 vertical pocket card. So, you know what? I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep it with my ice cream float dude. This we do need to trim down a very little bit. So right now it's 3 inches by 4 inches. We need to trim it down to 2 3/4 this way and 3 1/4 this way. And because there's not a lot of room at the top, again, I just took that right off the bottom. So I really just took a little smidge off of each side. Smidge being a very technical term. Basically, I just lined it up with the edge of the blue here on my paper trimmer. It's okay that part of that little pennant gets cut off. Your eye will naturally repair that and fill in the blanks. And honestly, if someone's looking that closely at your card, they probably don't deserve it. And then going this way, because I want to take the 3/4 of an inch off the bottom, line that up at the 3 1/4 inch piece or line and snug them. So it's really just right below his elbow that we're cutting off there. And that will nest nicely onto our blue piece. So while we've got him here, while we've got him in our hands, you might as well go right ahead and tape that down, and then he's ready to go when we need him. All right, he can just sit there and wait for a moment. The bridge can actually also go off to the side. So if you see here, this piece here it's 4 1/4 of an inch wide by 6 1/2 inches long. And then from each end, I've scored it at 1 inch and then 1 1/2 inches. So it's a 1 inch panel and then a 1/2 inch panel next to it. And then I just flipped it and did the same on the other end. I don't know if here, I'll try and hold it at the light that you can see it a bit better. The key to the bridge is whatever you do to the left side, you have to do to the right side so that it stands up nice and even and proportional. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to attach our paper first. So your large piece is going to go centered right between all of those score lines. And then your little narrow pieces are going to go on those end panels. And again, feel free to swap it up. I think I'm just going to do bubbles all the way across. You want to make sure those center panels are naked, if you will. We don't need any paper on those. They're really not going to get seen. Now, if you had some really pretty paper that you wanted to use, there's no saying that you couldn't put paper there, but this way it just keeps it a little bit cleaner. So go ahead and glue those down. like we need some music for while we're gluing. Maybe I'll do that next time. All right, and attach our centerpiece. Like so. So all your pieces are prepped and ready. We're going to start folding along those score lines. So along that innermost score line, we're going to fold it all the way over flat. If you've got a bone folder, you can give it a good burnish. And then along that next score line, we're going to fold it back. So kind of like the letter Z. Same thing on the other side. Innermost score line, we're going to fold in. And then the next score line, we're going to fold out. So there we have it if it's all folded flat. But when we're attaching the bridge, we don't want it folded flat. And actually we do need to prep the bridge because I've done this both ways, but I found it a lot easier to have our man or our pocket card attached before we put the bridge on. So super simple. All we want to do is put a couple of rows of tape right across the center, and it's going to go centered right onto our strip. And if you want to use the grids on your paper, makes it a lot easier. Come up a little bit. There we go. All right, so the key to the bridge, as with the other cards, is where we're putting the glue and where we're not putting the glue. We only want the glue to go on the ends of those strips. But when you look at it, you're like, but it's too long. What's gonna happen? When the card is folded flat, that right-handed fold is folded in. You can see that the left-handed fold is folded out. So take your piece here, leave that right-hand one folded in so we don't see that naked red strip, but we're gonna open up flat that other side. And then just by putting tape, and again, if you would rather use score tape just because it is gonna be a bit of a mechanism, you can, but now we're going to center it. We're going to align the edge of this with the edge of the red, centered top to bottom. And when that's folded down flat, that should just lie nicely the way it's meant to. And then you pop it up. And there you go. So that way you've got your little shadow box with your birthday dude floating in between, and your bridge card is done. 4 folded cards already. We are rocking it. Everyone's doing great. 1 more card to go. And that is our Joy Fold card. Once again, I really don't know why it's called a Joy Fold. Maybe someone named Joy created it. But I like how it's got a nice little interlocking kind of functionality that you can have a lot of fun with. So in packet number 5, which should be all you have left, get rid of our Post-it notes and they can all go in the recycling now, you have your card base. So just like the little card that we had inside our pocket in card number 3, this card has a shorter fold on the front. So the full length of this card was 4 1/4 this way by 9 3/4 this way. My fold measurement is actually from this end over here. That's at 5 1/2, because ultimately I made a full card first and then I just trimmed off here. So you'd be trimming off 1 1/4 from the front. What that leaves you with is a 4 1/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch square on the front and a little bit overlapping. So that's going to go off to your left because that's for the outside. The next piece here is a piece of blue that has been folded in half. So this piece is 3 1/4 wide by 8 1/2 inches long, scored at 4 1/4, which is the 1/2 inch mark. That means we can put our pocket card, our 3x4 pocket card, right on top with no trimming whatsoever required. So that's for the second piece, so that can go off to your right. Go ahead and pick one of your, we've only got 2 horizontal cards left, so go ahead and pick one of them. I'm going to actually do the Jolly Good Fellow. I'm going to put him over here on the right. Then you've got a few pieces left. So you have a happy birthday square and you have a happy birthday rectangle. Unfortunately, the way I had to cut the paper for you guys, the happy birthday here is going the wrong direction. So I would recommend that that goes on the inside and this piece goes on the outside. Unless you were planning on doing a vertical card, in which case you could put that this way and your joy fold would just fold down as opposed to left to right. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to keep it the way I had planned. So that red stripe is going to go in the front. Happy birthday's going to go on the square bit. And then you have these 2 little guys here. That's going to just be for some embellishment. So you can go ahead and tuck that off to the right. So easy peasy to start. We're just going to glue these guys down inside the card with a little bit of a white border around all of your edges. There we go. And I'm going to put my, I guess in theory you could, if you wanted both sides to be striped, you could do that. Just try your best to make sure those stripes line up, but I'm going to stick with the happy birthday. So that's going to get centered on that front panel. All right, your outside piece is ready. Now for your inside piece. Leave that for just a second. Let's do this guy first. Because like we've done before, we want to attach our pennants before we attach this to our blue card. So 2 little strips here, I'm going to actually stack them, make sure those ends are lined up, and dovetail. This way both my dovetails are going to be pretty close to exactly the same. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the red striped one down just a little bit so that it's not as tall as the red one, and then tuck it onto off to the left-hand side. So I'm just going to quickly tack that down, get my tape runner the right direction, just so we've got that little bannery bit. And I'm now going to glue that to the back side of my pocket card. Now you've got one whole unit that you can use to attach to this. And on this one here, I actually used, you have some foam squares left over, so if you want to pop that up, you absolutely can. I'm going to be frugal and just snip my last 2 1/2. But you should have lots left over. Can you see what I'm doing? I keep sliding down to the bottom. I apologize. There we go. I can now go in the trash, heal my backing. Now, before you attach this to your blue card, key piece of information. You want the fold on your right-hand side, because when it goes into your card here, you want it to open to the right. That's the whole point of this card. So take your blue piece, fold it in half along that score line, give it a good crease, fold on the right, and then attach your card to the top. And then, easy peasy, you're just going to tape up the back of this. And I kind of think about Pac-Man, where I've got blue piece munching on the outer piece. Get it centered the way you like it. So I'm not even stuck down yet. I'm just trying to find the right placement. With the stripe, you can find a stripe that you want to follow as well, and then push it down. And now your joy fold is complete. How easy is that? So there you have it, ladies. Our 5 Fun Folds cards are now pretty much complete. We've got our joy fold card. We've got our bridge card. We've got our pocket card with the tag on the inside. We've got our diagonal pocket that opens like so. And we have our fabulous easel card, which stands up. Now you can't see it very well. Let's move them down. So now all that's left is if you want to add any bling or embellishment or any other fun little add-ons to this, you can always stamp a different sentiment. Now that we've made all of these, I should have told you this up the front, but I didn't think of it. If you didn't like all the cards, you could easily just put a piece of white cardstock, like, so here's a joy fold card. I just put a piece of white cardstock there. That way I can stamp my own sentiment, or possibly even put a photo there of the person receiving the birthday card. So when you're making your own cards, don't feel like you need to use pocket cards. They just, for me and for this purpose, were a lot of fun. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is the Nouveau drops that you've got a little sample to play with. If you don't want to use these on this card, no worries, but they are lots of fun. So it is a liquid medium that creates enamel dots. So it is an enamel fluid that will harden and dry. I like the Nouveau drops because they are self-leveling. And what that means is if you've ever used Stickles or other products like this, sometimes you get that little cupcake point, as I call it, when you squeeze out the fluid and they dry like that. But these ones, when you drop your fluid onto your paper, as you leave it to dry, it will settle out and it will create this beautiful domed look to it. That point will settle and level all on its own. So in order to use this product, let me just clear some space here. I'm going to do it on, you know what? Yeah, no, let's do it on the pink one because it'll show up a little bit better. I'm just going to squeeze it a little bit on my scrap paper here. Make sure it's going to come out nicely. There we go. So what you want to do is you do not want to let your nozzle touch your paper. They're called drops. You do want to drop the fluid onto your card. And my little sample's getting empty here, but you want to squeeze like so and create that little ball. And like I said, you can see mine's got a bit of a point here, but if I just tap it a little bit, as it dries, it will settle out into a beautiful little domed ball. Now, I will tell you the downside to these drops is that they do take a little while to dry, which is why I've left it right to the very end. Now that we're done our class, you can go ahead and apply the Nouveau drops. To the touch, it should be dry in about 15 or 20 minutes, but depending on how big your drop is, this one I would say is on the bigger side, it's still going to be soft on the inside. And on my sample here, you can see where I rushed it and it flattened out because I put something on top of it. But you can see this nice little even one over here. So you just have to be careful. I would say set it, put the drops on, set it somewhere nice and flat and out of the way, at least overnight, so that you can let that dry perfectly solid before you put it in an envelope and mail it away. So there you have it, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me for this super fun birthday card class. I hope you had lots of fun making those folds. I hope you make lots more. I hope it has inspired you. Birthdays are things we always celebrate all year round, and it's always good to have a stash of birthday cards handy. And especially in this time, it's great to be able to send something in the mail to someone to give them a smile when you can't be there to give them a hug in person. So thank you very much. We're gonna sign off, wishing you all a happy day. And when your birthday comes around, I wish you a very happy birthday. Take care, everyone.